Hi guys, how's it going? And thanks for tuning in. Things are back to normal now, so as they say, normal programming will resume. And I apologize, but it really couldn't be helped. But all is well now. Now, I want to talk a little bit about this Article 16. Now, should the UK invoke Article 16, which, by the way, is against the wishes of the popular vote in the north of Ireland and against the wishes of many industrial and political leaders, we have to recognise that the UK will become completely isolated, okay? And I really wonder if those Brexit supporters have even the slightest clue about just what that holds for present and future generations. So let's go. Please ask yourself this question. What company of any size, any description, is going to risk setting up new facilities if their success depends on exports, or for that matter, on imports of vital raw materials? Who's going to set up in the UK? Okay? What bank will provide the loans, or what bank will provide the working capital that such companies require? How can any company provide projected annual accounts and cash flow projections? How can any company how can they do that if they've no idea what Westminster is going to do with Article 16? I mean, let's face it, Westminster doesn't know what it's going to do with Article 16, so how in the hell can the companies know? How can any company or bank predict what the reaction of the EU could be post Article 16? Brexiteers fell for Hardman David Davis' story of how Mercedes and BMW and Volkswagen would prevent the EU from doing this and they prevent the EU from doing that. And, guess what? Rubbish, claptrap, okay? This was echoed by Farage along with Gove, but they were wrong. We can see that they were wrong. End of story. Please ask this question of any Brexiteer you have the chance to engage with, particularly in the marginals. If you were the CEO of a company and you knew that you may not be able to sell to the biggest market in the world because sanctions could be invoked, would you risk your money? Or maybe perhaps you would choose to set up in another EU country that guarantees market access. Now, guys, there's a couple of things here with regard to that isolation comment that I made. When I say isolated, there's no question or doubt that the EU will issue sanctions if the UK plays that game. The question remains, however, will the US support the EU in sanctions? Or what pressure will the US put on the UK? I think we can take for granted that there'll be no deal, that's for sure. There won't be a deal anyway at current rate, but I think we can accept that the US will also engage and make things more difficult. Now that will rule out basically the two largest markets in the world, okay? The two largest in the world. Now, before, by the way, we want to get into that, I do really want to apologize for being unable to post those videos. Couldn't help it. But as the service has resumed, can I remind you to hit that subscribe and notification icon? Because particularly over the last few days, I really realized how important it is. Can't thank you enough, guys, for all the messages of support. But meanwhile, let's get back into it, okay? Now, I'd like to put out an appeal to anybody who may be living in the vicinity of the Sunderland area. As you're aware, we had a big announcement. Whoa, Nissan are going to be opening a new factory to produce this and that. Yeah, okay. Well, I've been watching this really closely, and I've contacted the Sunderland Planning Office, and I've not been able to find any information on any planning application, any environmental impact statements on this project. So if you have any news on this process, factual news, please drop a note in the comment section. I am aware already of the change, the application for change of signage and the wireless antenna, but not of anything else. So back to Article 16. A worrying event has occurred in the EU over the last number of days, particularly last Friday, and it appears to have gone relatively unnoticed by the British media, or it's been completely ignored by the British media, possibly because they feel that Germany were distracted with regard to Brexit because of the elections. However, it wasn't being issued from the German politicians. It was being issued by the member state European ministers earlier this week. And Germany pressed for the preparations of an Article 16 invocation to be done now, so that the European Union would not be caught off guard if the British government were to follow through on the threat to use the article. And that threat has been repeated often by Lord Frost and often by Downing Street in their demand letter. I mean, bloody hell, demand my ass. I think it's important to note also the comments by the EU Commissioner on Finance, Mairead McGuinness, on the Andrew Marr show. In a very short interview, she basically referred to the rhetoric coming out of Downing Street as being negative and being adversarial.
We need to work together. We don't need to keep this divisive atmosphere, because Northern Ireland will suffer, and I think that would be reprehensible. So we are in solutions mode. We are talking directly, helping communities in Northern Ireland, and we will continue to do that.
Okay, there's only so far you can push people. We also heard that claim by Boris Johnson that the former president of Belgium was willing to act as the mediator in the dispute. And this has been completely rejected by a Dutch diplomat who was privy to that conversation. And he said, and I'm quoting here, that the Prime Minister called on Boris Johnson to be constructive, to be pragmatic, and engage with the Commission. This was followed with both the UK and the EU share the responsibility to make the protocol as negotiated and as ratified on both sides of the Channel to work for the people in Northern Ireland. However, the tone from Lord Frost on Thursday last was more of the same rhetoric we've become accustomed to over the last number of months. On Thursday, Frost escalated things further with a warning sent through Twitter, of all places, saying that the protocol was having a continued negative effect on everyday life and businesses in Northern Ireland, and demanded an urgent response to changes requested by Britain. But here's the thing. The EU already responded to that document, the demand document. They responded to it within 7 days, and they published it. But Frost is still engaging with people. Now, the issue here is twofold. First, what type of numpty uses Twitter in any negotiation of that level? What would you think of an accountant or a lawyer or a business advisor appointed and paid for by you that resorted to using Twitter in very delicate and confidential negotiations, and to be doing it on your behalf in some sort of crazy effort to exert pressure on the other side? I mean, this method is often used in the case of a hostile takeover bids, trying to influence the shareholders, and therefore we must examine the second issue, which is, in my honest opinion, as follows. Is Frost simply trying to protect his ass and that of the Prime Minister? Okay? Since negotiations began in earnest under Boris Johnson's leadership, what evidence have we seen that suggests that this type of behaviour is, or will ever work as a tactic against the EU? The EU is not without its faults, of that there is little doubt. But when it comes to negotiations, they have more combined experience than the UK, China, India, and the US combined. I mean, they've signed specific documents. Those documents were engineered for the benefit of an extremely diverse economy with an eclectic mix of industries that is obvious that should you just roll over those deals, as has been done by Liz Truss, it doesn't achieve much. And we can see that in the export figures, which basically haven't moved to all these new places, which of course aren't new because we already had access to them. Now, some of you may feel that this is wrong, but the facts speak for themselves. The UK's export to the EU have dropped substantially. Remember that 48% of all UK goods exports go to the EU, but so too have imports from the EU. They've dropped substantially as well. But as a percentage of EU exports to the UK, That just accounts for 6.2% of the entire EU's exports. 6.2% versus 48%. So if it dropped by 50%, it still drops by 3.2%. But if 48% drops by 50%, that's a drop of 24%. Okay? So with that backdrop and the clear and unmistakable message coming from the EU, coming from the US also, that should the UK government embark on pandering to the political whims of the DUP in order to support the DUP's relevance in a society that has long since moved along from their partitionist ideology, the UK risks everything, and I mean everything. Thanks for watching. See you on the flip side.